Hey there, so today I want to return with a quick video that is going to complain about a little bit out there, but still, when I see this kind of stuff coming up, I can't help but think, yeah, we've been talking about this coming up for quite a while, and now we see it manifesting. What you see are people that are the ghosts from movements past, people that have outlived their shelf life, coming in to try to attach themselves to something new and something shiny. Right now, we're talking about people that are trying to come in and trying to co-opt COMICSGATE or become anti-COMICSGATE because. Now, it's amazing to me when I look at things like we're looking at in front of you, where you have somebody talking about having in 818 minutes sitting down and having that lovely fireside chat with Rimfamous talking about COMICSGATE and Ethan Van Sciver. Now, apparently, what they're saying that they're going to discuss here, it's going to be a discussion about alt-right incursion into the comic industry. And that, it's amazing to me because of what gets labeled alt-right and what kind of rhetoric we will hear from this kind of stuff while never ever talking about the reality of the comic book industry. Here's the reality of it. 2012, you see a viable market that keeps on stepping up, but 2017, the wheels seem to fall off. 2018, things get worse. And in 2019, we are seeing the ramifications of that. 2017, you're talking about a 10% across the board decline in units shipped and also dollars earned from shipment. These are in physical units to comic book shops. We're not talking about sales. We're just talking about units moving out there. 2018, we see the highest prices ever, the highest ones we have ever seen within all of these years. Yes, we reached that pinnacle there. We see nothing added to comic books to get there, but no, we see out of the top 10, we have a baseline of $3.99. 2 comic books hit that. We have 4 comic books represented at $4.99, 2 at $5.99, a $7.99, and a $9.99 comic book. Does that sound like something that's healthy? Now, of course, comic book shops, they go in and they buy these things wholesale. And when they buy them wholesale, they cannot return them. So, of course, they're dying by the dozens out there. I mean, literally, they are dropping like flies. When I talk about comic book shops, too, we're talking about mom and pop industry out there. We're talking about families and livelihood, something that comic book professionals out there within the mainstream industry don't give a crap about. They say they're outmoded. They don't care. Digital sales will save us, despite the fact that digital sales have been frozen. So when you look at those numbers of those comic book shops dropping, you had 4,000 comic book shops 2008. Right now we're going under 2,000. I believe that the point of no return is around 1,900. I think that that's where we're looking at. And really out of those, you have to ask yourself too, how many of those are so big that they carry the comic industry? And why are those type failing as well? 2017, 50 fall. 2018, 80 to 100 fall. 2019, we've already seen over 20 fall since December, since Christmas. We've had announcements of that. I don't count that on 2018 because they've announced their closing within this year. So we're looking at yet more. I mean, we've already seen over 20 establish that. The people that are going to be talking about this stuff, though, they don't know, nor do they care about that. They don't care what happens in the industry. They will throw around words. They'll throw around buzzwords saying diversity and on, not understanding, again, the ramification of what is transpiring within the industry. Take a company like IDW, for example. This is the 4th largest publisher, 3rd largest in-house publishers in all of comic books. They do not have enough intellectual property to go out and make movies and on. They have stuff that will allow them to make TV shows, but that's been few and far between this year. You know what their earnings look like? Negative $7.174 million. That's their entire year. That isn't a kind of a reduction from last year. No, that's what they've made so far this year. And this was in 9 months. We don't have the end numbers yet. If we keep rolling on, like I say, if you look at what these companies they actually represent, this was a company that was worth around $50 million when the year started out. And when you look at them now, they've already reduced to 44 plus change. You see them, they've taken on by 2020, they're going to take on $21 plus million in debt. Plus they took out a bridge loan this year for another $23 million. Essentially, if it continues the way that it looks, you're talking about a company that is going to have more debt than they're actually worth. This, again, is the third largest in-house publisher, a company that has been around for the longest time. But people, they seem to bypass this, pretending, of course, that this stuff happens all the time. And, of course, this isn't alarming. We hear words like diversity and on. You know, there's a challenge to diversity. And, of course, I'm sure we're going to hear that type of rhetoric again because those terrible Nazis out there. Meanwhile, if you look at the impact to a company like this, if you look at 9 months in, the negative $2.532 million for comics, look at what's impacted there. I mean, if we're talking about actual diversity, if we're talking about comic pros being able to practice their craft, sell their wares, where are you going to sell them when the direct cost of revenues, primarily consisting of printing and the cost of artists and writers, decreases? That's what the brackets here mean. It means a decrease or a loss on the year, so they decrease the cost by $886,000. Now, continuing with these numbers, I mean, if you go and you look, again, this is only 9 months. We haven't seen the total calamity that the company is because they won't come out with the numbers until they actually have to. But you see the selling, general, and administrative expenses by $827,000 for decrease. If you look at the other overhead allocations and salaries of benefits reductions, when you put those together, you're talking about quite a bit of money. Now, you tell me, when artists are starting out, they're trying to get their footing, when you discuss diverse and on, who do you think you're benefiting by going and continuing that same old status quo? But of course, the industry is going to empower its trolls. It's going to go out and it's going to say, walk lockstep or us, because it doesn't want this kind of stuff discussed. I mean, they want to go and they want to sell you the picture that everything is going right. But when you start looking at that picture, you start noticing the fact that, well, it's not framed well. It's a little bit off kilter. You have all of these problems, and all of those problems, they don't fit into that pre-packaging of Nazi and alt-writer. Now, when we're talking about the value of numbers, I'm sure that none of these folks can tell us anything about comic books and really the value of those numbers. But they sure as heck can see the value in these numbers. When they're not pulling those subscribers, and then they start pulling more. Yeah, this kind of stuff, relevance, it's right there. And that relevance, man, that turns into a little bit of change. Not only that, but when we start looking at the wonderful world of Patreon and Graphitron, I'm sure that, of course, we need a little bit of injection there. Because, got to keep feeding those people something else. Got to keep talking about it. This is something that I've talked about in depth before as well. And that is outside forces trying to come in and trying to co-opt something because of individualized profit, because of their gain, for their motives. Meanwhile, comics, there's nothing rectified or remedied. Sure, they'll throw around words like diversity and inclusion. Sure, they'll throw around titles like Nazi and alt-right. But at the end of the day, what they're doing is shilling for mega corporations that have attached themselves to the corpses of the local comic shop, because those things, they are dying, and none of this will ever fix it. In fact, that stuff will hasten its demise, because more and more people, they'll walk away. And what you saw before with fandom saying, hey, we need resolution, that stuff, it'll become more about identity politics and trying to bash the fashion on. But anyhow, you can tell me what you think about this stuff. If you want to support the channel too, subscribe to it for sure. Like anything that you like, don't like anything that you don't, and go on from there. You can check out the links in the description if you want to do more, but this is just something I wanted to talk about because I could see this writing on the wall. You will, of course, have more and more of this pile on, more and more people that want to involve, and I don't mean that just on anti, I mean that on pro as well. We have something that we're talking about, something that people are trying to salvage, saying, hey, this industry, it is falling apart. You're losing money and all. The big two, they're making their money on intellectual property. But still, that'll all fall to the wayside because of the identity to identity clashes. I always appreciate people showing up too, so leave those comments there. And, of course, I want to thank you for showing up, listening to me rant, and we'll probably rant again later. But anyhow, thank you.